Excellency Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, joining us virtually. Yang Berhormat Dato' Sri Haja Nancy Shukri, Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia. Her Excellency Armida Salsiah, United Nations Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of UN ESCAP, Tan Sri, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me at the outset extend a very warm welcome to our Honorable Minister, Yang Berhormat Dato' Sri Haja Nancy Shukri, for taking time off your very busy schedule to be with us here this morning. We are also delighted to have with us here the Prime Minister of New Zealand and the United Nations Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of UN ESCAP to be with us here also this morning. This is the first World Women Economic and Business Summit. There have been many previous conferences on women over the years, but this is the first summit that we are focusing on women in business and the economy. This recognizes the growing role of women in business and in key economic sectors. This is even more relevant today than ever before as the world builds back better in a post-pandemic recovery. Going forward, we need to focus more on diversity and inclusion and empowerment for women. Together, we must overcome a legacy of neglect of women. We must start providing for women leadership. We don't have a moment to wait to have more women in business and economic leadership positions. We believe also that inclusive and sustainable development is key to future growth, and these must also include women. Women leaders must embrace and advance and accelerate the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In this regard, we are very pleased to have with us the UN Under Secretary General to address us later today. I'm also pleased to welcome here our delegation from the UN ESCAP in Bangkok who are present with us here today. We need, I believe, to focus on and address globally the 4 F's challenges that we now have to grapple with: food, fuel, fertilizers, and finance. These are the 4 challenges that the world have to face. And these are challenges that women, as wives, mothers, and individuals, will also have to grapple with. At the same time, there is a need to also critically discuss the 4 E's: economic growth, education, environment, and energy, because these 4 E's will impact on the world going forward, particularly in this critical time. To have more women in leadership positions in business, we need to have more transparency, accountability, and monitoring. We need to build bridges and find consensus going forward on how we can accelerate having more women leadership in business. Tonight, we shall be honoring the success of over 30 women achievers with special awards during the gala dinner tonight. In conclusion, I wish to once again thank Yang Berhormat Dato' Sri Haja Nancy Shukri for being with us here physically at this conference. Thank you also to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and the UN Executive Under Secretary General, Her Excellency Armida Salsiah. Thank you to MICEP, the Malaysian Convention Bureau, for your support of this conference, as well as to the Young Presidents Organization, YPO, for hosting tonight's dinner, and to our corporate sponsors for your participation and support. Thank you to all our participants and the media for being present with us today. Sekian, terima kasih.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for your welcome remarks and setting the stage for what is to come in today's summit. Excellencies, distinguished guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, we are now extremely privileged to be receiving the special keynote address from one of the world's most prominent leaders and role model to many, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Selamat sejahtera. Greetings to you all, and thank you to the KSI Strategic Institute for the invitation to speak today and the opportunity to share some thoughts on women and leadership. I'd also like to acknowledge the other speakers who'll be sharing their insights and views at this summit. In today's world, it's vital that women have a place at the leadership table. A variety of voices leads to better decision making, and evidence shows organisations that are innovative and diverse tend to outperform their competitors. It's true that women are now better represented than ever before, and here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, we're proud of our legacy of women in leadership. We were the first country in the world where women won the right to vote. Today, almost half of our members of parliament are women, and I'm New Zealand's third female Prime Minister. Wahine Māori are increasingly taking up key leadership positions, including our current Minister of Foreign Affairs and our Governor-General. Now, these are positive steps. They show the progress that's been fought for and hard won by generations of women. Yet, despite this, we still have much to do. It cannot simply be about women in leadership positions alone. Women, for instance, are still paid less than their male counterparts, with New Zealand's gender pay gap sitting at 9.1%. Only 25% of the leadership teams of our top 50 companies are women. Kiwi businesswomen can struggle to access finance and loans, and many women are still expected to carry the bulk of domestic duties whilst holding down a full-time job. Now, we are not alone in these challenges. Around the world, in politics, business and local communities, there is a shortage of female leaders or opportunities granted to our female leaders. We also need to do better to ensure Indigenous women, women with disabilities and those in rural, remote or poorer communities are represented, so their unique insights and perspectives can be included in all levels of decision making. This is particularly important when it comes to politics. We know that having more women leaders in politics results, ultimately, in better outcomes not just for women and girls, but I would argue for the whole of society. However, overcoming the barriers that prevent women participating in politics is much easier said than done. There are many barriers standing in the way of women entering leadership roles, and these often differ from country to country. One that is having an impact globally, especially in the political space, is social media. It's a powerful tool for communicating with voters, but it also can be a confronting space. This is just one of the many barriers preventing women from taking on greater leadership opportunities, and it's one that will require us all working together to overcome. I welcome events such as this one today, where we can share ideas and find practical solutions for the difficulties faced by women in leadership and those aspiring to leadership. With this in mind, we all have a role to play in supporting, guiding and empowering the next generation of women leaders. If we are to support more women to take these positions up, then we must be open to different styles of leadership. To give you an example, empathy, listening, kindness, we teach these values to our children, but we then view them as weaknesses in our leaders. We must change this attitude if we're to increase the number of people who can see themselves in leadership positions in the future, including women. Whether it's addressing climate change, pursuing sustainable economic development, or tackling social injustices, women have an important role to play in decision making, and that has always been the case. No matter what sphere you're working in, be it politics, business, the arts or community organisations, I encourage you to lead the way. Seek out women to take up new opportunities and roles. Ensure that those who may not have confidence in themselves have the confidence of those around them. We all have a role to play in increasing representation and overcoming the barriers that sit in front of our current female leaders taking on those roles. I wish you all the very best, and I thank you again for the opportunity to participate today. Ngā mihi, thank you to you all. Turi maha kasi.
A big thanks to the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, for her special keynote address presented virtually, giving a vision of the prominent role and impact women can have in politics, business, and the larger society, acknowledging the challenges they face that requires a change of mindset. Thank you very much. Next, we have a speech from Her Excellency Ms. Armida Salsiah Alisjahbana, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic and Social Commissions for Asia Pacific, UN ESCAP, who was also the former Minister of National Planning Indonesia, who will be presenting her special keynote address on the growing economic power of women.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to join you today for this session of the World Women Economic and Business Summit on the growing economic power of women. Women's empowerment and economic participation are fundamental to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and unlocking our full economic potential. Globally, only about half of women are engaged in the labor force. In the Asia-Pacific region, over the past 30 years, women's labor force participation has fallen to 44% in 2021, a drop of almost 10%. Hidden behind these figures are the hours women spend on unpaid care and domestic work. Considering paid and unpaid work, women in Asia and the Pacific work the longest hours in the world. Women perform 4 times the amount of unpaid care work of men. These demands for unpaid care work reduce the time and energy women have available to participate in employment or entrepreneurship. Women who are engaged in the workforce earn less, are in less secure jobs, and are more likely to be employed in the informal sector than men. In Asia and the Pacific, approximately 2/3 of women workers are in the informal sector. We all stand to gain by opening opportunities for women to join the formal workforce. An estimated $4.5 trillion would be added to the region's gross domestic product by 2025 by closing gender disparities in economic opportunities. One way to reduce these disparities is to invest in women's entrepreneurship, which can catalyze economic empowerment and sustainable growth. Women-owned businesses in the Asia-Pacific region have been increasing and growing at a fast pace. These businesses have multiplier effects on family well-being, poverty reduction, and sustainable economic growth. Nevertheless, women in the region continue to face numerous challenges to start, sustain, and upscale their businesses. Challenges include lack of access to finance, limited access to information and communication technology, discriminatory legislative framework, and biased cultural and social norms. To tackle these barriers, ESCAP is leading a large regional initiative to foster women entrepreneurship as a key strategy to empower women business owners and women leaders in the economic sectors. We focus on creating an enabling policy environment, increasing access to financial services and digital solutions. The Catalyzing Women's Entrepreneurship Program applies a unique ecosystem approach, addressing all the interconnected issues from policies and laws to digital and business skills, financing, and partnership. To date, a total of 43,000 women entrepreneurs have directly benefited from enhanced access to finance and digital skills to start and grow their businesses. Through the FinTech Innovation Fund, Women Enterprise Recovery Fund, Digital Finance and E-commerce Solutions, we have assisted women entrepreneurs in repositioning their businesses to become more agile and better prepared for future shocks. As an example of the policy initiatives, in Vietnam, ESCAP assessed the existing law on small and medium enterprises. Our findings influenced the new Decree 80, which incorporated specific provisions for women-led enterprises. To truly unleash the growing economic power of women, we must recognize, redistribute, and reduce the burden of women's unpaid care and domestic work. This will not only relieve the care burden on women, but also create new opportunities for decent employment. Ladies and gentlemen, By removing barriers to women's economic empowerment, we will increase their influence as decision makers and consumers and advance overall economic productivity. ESCAP is committed to promoting and supporting women's economic opportunities in partnership with government, civil society, and other stakeholders. Together, we can expand opportunities for women and realize their full economic power. Thank you very much.